Being fat or skinny is a choice. We'll start by having people that agree come up now.
So I was a wrestler my whole life, constantly dieting my whole entire life. I mean, at this point now, I'm not wrestling anymore, so I don't have to worry about it as much. But I think it just comes down to the fact of it's just a calorie deficit. You want to consume less than what you're burning. Some people might have it easier. I'm not saying that, like some people might find it harder to lose weight, some people might find it easier.
In your experience with the wrestling thing, did you always lose weight when you went into a calorie deficit, or was it different each time?
100%, and it might have been, a little too extreme to where it got to the point where it might have been a little unhealthy. But, at the end of the day, I was losing weight, and it could have been because I had a better metabolism than some people. I could have had an easier route, but at the same time, I mean, anybody can lose weight if you just put your mind to it.
Okay, and what do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely a choice. Excluding all the rarities, thyroid conditions, things like that come up. In general, I definitely think that it's everyone's personal choice. Some people do have it harder. I myself, I have a really hard time gaining weight. Super easy for me to kind of drop weight, slim down. But if you're trying to pack on muscle, I feel like I'm eating nonstop constantly.
Yeah, I mean, how much are you eating per day? Is it a lot?
I don't count my calories. I just have a rule: if my stomach doesn't feel full, I have to eat.
Okay, fair. And how about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with the majority of what you've said. That you can change your diet and really control what your weight does. I've watched it happen with my own body over the course of my life. I shared my office with a nutritionist for a year and listened to him talk about things. And, it is very true. You can control that. And there are different genetic effects that can have a play on things, or different conditions that people might have, like you mentioned. But I think we have to also mention the way that our food system is structured right now. Our food system is designed to keep people unhealthy and to keep people fat and overweight, and to try and make people sick and put them into the medical system, where then they can fall into the insurance system. We have a system that is stacked against people being healthy. If you look at what people looked like with what they were eating when they ate whole foods, 7,500 years ago, maybe even less. I think it really started after World War II, when they learned how to prepackage foods with a bunch of preservatives to get at the front lines, and that changed the way that our processing of foods was done. And I think since that point, it's become the commodization of the American people. I mean, we're essentially cattle being farmed for all of these different services to compound and rake us for money.
Okay, and I think that's a good time to bring in the rest of us.
I think that there's, like you were saying, there's so many disadvantages and ways of privilege that some people don't have access to, like transportation, healthy foods. If they struggle with their mental health or physical health for any reason, they can't get access to the same kinds of foods to stay healthy or to stay thinner. Just for medical conditions, personally, I have POTS, which makes it hard for me to exercise, and also I need a lot of salt. And when I am thinner, it's harder for me to stay hydrated, so I pass out then. But all of those reasons, it's hard for me to believe that it is a choice.
Okay, can you kind of explain what POTS is?
Yeah, POTS is postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And what that means is when your heart rate rises because your blood pools, and so then you pass out. But it's really important to stay super hydrated and have salt in your system to regulate your blood pressure.
I also have a medical condition called PCOS, it's polycystic ovarian syndrome, and it makes it difficult to lose weight as well. I'm not blaming me being a bigger gal over that by any means. Also, one thing I cannot control is how tall I am. I'm really short, and that's also a part of this body acceptance thing. It's like, that is something that I can change with only one thing, and that's wearing heels. And it's not the most ideal way to live, but this is the body that I was born in, and the body that I'm so accepting of other people's bodies, but it's like accepting my own without changing so much about it. It's really difficult.
I think it all comes down to whether or not we have free will. In today's society, we don't have access to knowledge. And so a lot of us don't realize the foods that we're eating is bad, whether or not you are eating healthy or you're eating like ramen noodles every day. We truly don't know what's in our foods. And so unless you're calorie counting and, owning up to what you're doing, unless you have that ability to break through that barrier of this is me, which a lot of people don't, especially in poverty. Like, we don't have access to therapy, stuff like that. Like, trauma can make a huge barrier between self-awareness and blaming the world. And so a lot of people just blame the world and they can't accept accountability, which could literally be impossible for them.
If I have somebody that I have to rely on to buy all my food and supplies, then at that point, you don't really have a choice. It's not like an 8-year-old can petition for emancipation. I mean, he's kind of stuck under the guidance and values of his parents.
Yeah, that's true.
As an adult, I guess it's different, but yeah, definitely as young children and even the teenagers, it's not as much of a choice.
What else do you think makes it not a choice for them?
Gosh, I think of like when I'm like in front of really good food, and just being like a foodie in general, like trying different restaurants. Food is how I bond with people too. Like, it's in our society. You go to a restaurant, you eat as much food until you're so stuffed you can't eat anymore. And that is how I eat almost every day. And it feels like I don't have the free will anymore. It freaking controls me. And to get up and have that same energy to go to the gym is really hard. Where I'm like, the easy thing is to do the, eating until I can't no more. And maybe that does make it a choice in a way, but I feel like I don't have the free will to make that choice.
That makes sense. Do you think a lot more people are feeling that like that too?
100%. Like, it's something that I can control. If I'm gonna choose a salad, you bet I'm gonna put a bunch of dressing on it to make it taste better. Or the burger just looks so good, like here, I absolutely am going to eat that compared to the salad. I don't feel like I have control over it, that it does not feel like a choice. It does also feel good. Like, the endorphins hit me and I'm just like freaking dopamine high. I guess I could be addicted to crack. So if my food is my addiction, which it is, I've wrote like long notes in my phone about how bad my food addiction is. Like, it doesn't feel like a choice. But there's no place to go, like food rehab. Right? It's not treated the same. It's just you're fat and that's your choice. Get up, you lazy thing.
It's
Terrible.
the easiest coping mechanism.
Right.
Like, I remember having a bad day, like almost weekly. The thing was, I would go when it was a bad day and I would hit a Taco John's and grab, big giant grilled stuffed burrito and the pound of potato Olays, a bunch of extra seasoning, because that was like like the same feeling people describe of like having the cigarette when they've been craving it, kind of thing, of like just that release of like, okay, I had, it just set that calm across your whole body, kind of thing.
Can I ask you three a question that disagreed?
Yeah.
Do you guys find that sometimes it's a lack of discipline more so than a choice, which can sometimes enable you into making further bad choices? I find myself with those similar struggles on things outside of the gym. How do you guys feel about that?
There's a fine line between discipline and free will, and it all just comes down onto your neural pathways and whether or not you have the capability to rewire your brain to be like, okay, I can eat this. You can have the Taco Bell, but you have to balance it out with something. Too much of anything is an addiction. If you're constantly eating healthy food, once you get a bite of, Thanksgiving turkey, you're going to overindulge. And I've experienced that myself.
Specifically with going to the gym, like, that is a discipline that I highly admire in people like you. Truly. I tell myself I don't have the time. I'm doing other things. I'm working. I really don't. I don't think I would have the dedication that it takes. Going to the gym is a choice. And you guys, I'm glad that you do, but it's also like not my thing. I've tried it before and I don't have the discipline to stay consistent with it. So I think that's a good point, Gabe.
Sure.
Yeah, I think for me it comes down to discipline. I've been through the points in time in my life where I've been what you would consider 1% as far as physical condition, and I know that at this point it is a discipline thing. Last year my wife and I did a 90-day challenge and I lost 50 pounds in 90 days. So I know if I make the choice to do the things, good things happen. So for me, I believe it is a discipline thing, but that it can very well be my privilege. It's not, I have the means to be able to do it if I want to or choose not to. And like you said, food is a social thing for me. I have, just today, I had an all-you-can-eat buffet after a work event. I have at least 3 work meals every single week that are all-you-can-eat buffets, because that's our culture. Like I'm constantly working with people. It's just part of my job to ensuring other people having meals and enjoying themselves. And food is also like my art form. Like I have a commercial kitchen in my home because I just love to experiment with food, like making all kinds of homemade things. The pandemic was an awesome time because we got to make so many homemade things. I just love to deal with food. And so I've always had a problem with weight because
I just think back to like access and like how you were talking about how sometimes there are folks that are privileged and can access those kinds of things. But for me and how I grew up, I know that like we didn't always have a ride to the food pantry. And even if we did, the food pantry doesn't offer nutritious food a lot of the times. Also, not only transportation, there is that mental block. There's also physical blocks if you are differently abled and not able to make it to the gym or make it to the store. All of those things are really prevalent in the back of my mind because I've experienced a lot of those things. And so I think it's really important for me at least to remember where I come from and then also the privilege I have today to make more choices than I ever could.
I totally get the access because it seems like healthy food is the most expensive anytime you go to the grocery store. And so, I totally understand the access point. I just want to go back. I mentioned before I wrestled my whole life. I was not a healthy eater. Try telling a 13-year-old he can't have, a cookie tonight or anything like that. And so, when I was going to high school too, for lunch, I was eating an Uncrustable and I'd always get like a chocolate chip cookie. And so, it's possible. Like I said before, as long as you're not you're burning more calories than you consume, you're going to lose weight. So at the end of the day, I always think it's a choice. And it's not even like going to the gym. If you consume a lot of calories during the day and you're like, man, I'm stuffed, I need to go burn a couple calories, you could just go for a walk. Go outside, go for a run, and you would lose weight. And so I'm still on the side where I believe it's a choice.
Again, barring medical conditions, every nutritionist I've ever spoken with has always said it really is as simple as how it's being put. I don't say that to cast in negativity, but more so to just spread like, hey, it is possible. And I don't want to enable anybody's mind to think that it can't be done. More as a real positivity thing, like you absolutely can do it. And I'll accept that it's certainly harder for some folks, but possible.
Kind of going back to some of the talk about children and stuff earlier, we've made a really conscious decision to make sure that our children are a lot more educated about food, and they understand right now, like, hey, what you're eating is not really healthy, and so they are making the conscious choice, and they understand that right now at their age their metabolism is allowing them to get away with the things that they're doing. We've also seen one of our children very much struggle with their own body acceptance a lot and have a hard time with that, with a lot of bullying and issues and stuff. And so watching them go through that, and we've helped educate them and they've helped improve themselves in ways that they wanted to. I feel a lot more empowered now with everything I have access to. Speaking to what you said about knowledge earlier, I was a kid I was born in '85, so a lot of the stuff coming out back then was new. A lot of these packaged foods were just coming out with a lot of the newest, fanciest oils and all the other nonsense that they have in them now. And so, I feel like as a parent now, we do have that choice a lot more to actually educate ourselves if we want to. But the problem is there's not a good way to determine if the data is actually factual nowadays. You can go out there and find absolutely contradictory sources from fully highly credentialed, PhD level, completely contradicting in the nutrition space. And so it's really difficult to put the onus on people again when you have a system that is designed to confuse and designed to try and keep people addicted at the end of the day. It's like so many of our other vice systems, food has become another vice system in our country.
So as someone I just graduated in 23 of high school, and as someone who's worked in elementary schools, I see how obesity has overtaken the system. When I was in elementary school, we did not have snack time. They have snack time. Multiple times a day, they get to bring their own snacks. And so I see the way that these kids treat each other, and I see the way that they look at food. Being in school too, it's such a structured system. And so when you get the ability to take a break, you overindulge. And so that's just the way our system in America, in the United States, is set up and how it's been set up since the schools were established. And I find it hard to say that we have free will to be skinny or be fat, because a lot of parents don't know how to parent their children due to the lack of knowledge, and they choose to shut them up with food.